What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Stadium Drive Week 7. It's unbelievable that we're already to Week 7 in the season. Feels like yesterday it was Week 1. The season has just flown by. But thanks for joining us here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network and on YouTube for Stadium Drive Week 7. Will Ford here with Storied Rivals. And this week we're going to be branching into the IVC. We've got Garaway and Indian Valley coming your way this Friday night from Indian Valley High School. That's where we're going to be posted up, and we're going to preview this big-time IVC matchup. Garaway is 6-0 on the year. Indian Valley is 4-2, and Indian Valley and Garaway have been so dominant in the IVC really for the last handful of years, for a very long time. But the story really for Garaway is just how, they are just absolutely dismantling teams. If you look at what they've done through 6 weeks, they're outscoring opponents 233-38. And they also only have 3 turnovers on offense. So they're playing efficient football on offense, but they're explosive. They're scoring points. They don't win the time of possession battle often because they do a great job defensively, creating great field position for the offense. They have short drives, big plays. Garaway is just, on a roll. They were undefeated in the regular season last year, and they're looking very, very strong this year. And Brady Geibel, their quarterback last week, had 250 yards almost from passing in and running the football, almost 250 total yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. Jenson Garber is a really good wide receiver for them. Dillon Soehnlen, really good out of the backfield, 126 yards and a touchdown. Garaway's just super, super good. Last year when these two teams played, Indian Valley and Garaway won 17-0. But Indian Valley, they won 3 playoff games last year. And Garaway won playoff games as well. They both made deep playoff runs. And these programs have been just incredibly successful. On the Indian Valley side, the quarterback for the Braves, Sam Carter, he came off an injury last year. This year, he's been playing super, super efficient football. And I think, honestly, one of the more underrated, when you look at the quarterback position, they always get so much attention, all of the credit or all of the blame, depending on how much, how well your team's performing. But I feel like Sam Carter has just kind of flown under the radar. He's had a really, really nice, efficient season. He only threw 2 incompletions last week. And you'll hear from head coach Matt Lancaster, those 2 incompletions were on drop passes. One was a drop touchdown and one was another drop on a separate drive. And he's just been playing really efficient. He spreads the ball around. Grady Kinsey, 123 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns last week. Colton Thomas is kind of a gadget player. He can run it. You can also throw it to him. Had it over 100 yards from scrimmage last week in their win. And both these teams are just playing super, super well right now. And they're just on a really good roll. And how these two teams prep for each other, I don't know. It's got to be extremely stressful because I feel like, even though it was 17-0 last year, I think the last 2 matchups have been shutouts in Garaway's favor. But I just have a feeling with this game, there's just going to be a lot of points put up on the board. I feel like both teams can just score. It's just who's going to get that last stop at the end. That's what I think is going to happen. But let's hop into the interviews that we have for you in Stadium Drive Week 7. We have Jason Wallick with the Garaway Pirates. We'll start with the visitors. We'll talk to Jason Wallick. And then afterwards, the home team, Indian Valley Braves. And you'll have Matt Lancaster with you as well. So here's Jason Wallick, Stadium Drive Week 7 on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. Here with head coach Jason Wallick of the Garaway Pirates as they're 6-0 going into Week 7. And Coach Wallach, I really appreciate your time joining us today. But you're through the first 6 weeks of the season, you're outscoring opponents 233-38. And so I get a lot of fans or media, if outsiders looking in, they could point at something like, oh, it's the offense that's the story, it's the defense, and but as a coach, you coaching your guys, what do you look at as kind of the driving force behind this 6-0 run to start the year undefeated going in to Indian Valley this week?
Well, fortunately, offensively, we've been able to take care of the football, which is a big thing. I think we only have 3 turnovers on the year, and that's a huge key for us. Allows us, obviously, to keep the ball, possession of the ball and score. So, and we've done a pretty good job of that. We've gotten better each week from week one until where we're at now offensively as well. Defensively, we just have that philosophy, that mentality of bend but don't break, and our kids have really done a great job of that. They know the expectation. We want to shut out every week, and they work their tails off and learning their opponent, studying the scouting report, and then going out and executing. So we've been very fortunate to stay pretty healthy for the most part as a team, and just the overall success I think is it's a payoff from all the hard work in the offseason that these kids have put in. We all talked before about how our senior class last year, we knew that class was going to be a really good class, and this group's kind of lived in their shadows for the last 3 years, and probably even more than that. Even growing up, they just knew that 2023 class was a really good class. And so they kind of took that to heart over the winter and worked their tails off. And, the success that we've had is because of them and their attitude and their determination to be successful.
So talk to me about the turnovers then on offense, or I guess the lack thereof. You mentioned only 3 turnovers throughout the entire season to this point, and I'm sure a big part of that obviously is your quarterback Brady Geibel. He had 250 total yards last week, 4 total touchdowns. You got Jenson Garber's a great wide receiver. You got a great running back. Dillon Soehnlen had 126 yards and a touchdown last week. I mean, the offense just seems to be humming all year. Like, what has gone into, is it just great decision making? Is it just great scheming, play calling? Is it matchups? Like, what goes into just being so, you're putting up a lot of points, obviously, but being efficient while you're doing so and not turning the ball over?
It's all coaching. It's everything we've done. Obviously, totally kidding. No, Brady has made tremendous decisions with the football. I believe he had an interception in week 1 against Bel Air, and then didn't have one again until week 5, the first play of the game against East Canton, which I know he would have really liked to have back. But he's made really good decisions with the football. He's ran it when he needs to run it. He's a patient quarterback who's willing to go through his reads and does a really nice job pre-snap for us as well. Again, a kid who really understands the game, really studies the game because he wants to be good, and he really understands what defenses are throwing at him. So, so from that perspective, from the quarterback perspective, Brady's done a great job of decision making, and being patient and learning the game. Our running backs have done a great job. Dillon Soehnlen, as you mentioned, is a phenomenal running back, very small in stature, but huge heart. One of our strongest kids pound for pound, or the strongest kid pound for pound for us on our football team, who had some fumbling issues last year. He got thrown into week 1 when Ethan Miller went down against Bel Air and came in and actually fumbled twice, maybe even 3 times in that game. And so he's really taken that to heart and really worked hard to improve that as well.
So talk to me about prep for Indian Valley then, because they're 4-2 coming in to this week against your squad, and you defeated them last year 17-0. But they won 3 playoff games last year. They're a great program, great football team, and this year they've just been super tough and physical running the football. I mean, they just rack up a ton of yards rushing. It seems like every week. What's prep been like this week for them going in to this week 7, as you try to move to 7-0?
We've had a great week, to be honest. Again, our kids have really, really studied them, and we feel pretty confident in the aspect of knowing what they're going to be throwing at us. They run a ton of different formations, but our kids understand what they want to do out of what formations. So it's really good. Listen, Indian Valley is a great, great football team. It's going to be a huge challenge for us. We know that. They've traditionally been the top of the IVC ever since they joined the league. Like you said, they've made the long playoff run last year, the regional finals. We know we really have our hands cut out for us. Will be our biggest challenge of the year, trying to stop the run for sure. Try to get them in uncomfortable situations, hopefully. But they've thrown the ball really well this year as well. Carter's done a great job coming back from his injury from last year and leading that offense. And, you got the Thomas boy. They're very skilled. very athletic, very, very well coached and disciplined. They don't make many mistakes, which I think is one thing that they've really improved on from last year. I think penalties hurt them in critical situations last year, and they've really improved in that aspect of the game. So we know we have our hands full. If we get to 7-0, that's awesome. But we got a lot of football to play. We believe we have a lot of football to play, and hoping to get that week 11 and make a nice tournament run. So this will definitely be a game that will prepare us for that tournament run, hopefully, as we know that, there's going to be some tough competition down the road as well. But this is a first-class program with first-class coaches, and going to be a great challenge for us for sure.
Well, we're looking forward to watching on Friday. We'll be there for this big-time matchup in the IVC, and best of luck this Friday, but the rest of the way as well. And keep this train rolling, man. I'm excited watching you guys, and best of luck.
Appreciate it, Will. Thanks a lot, and we love what you guys do for us.
All right, so we're here with Matt Lancaster of the Indian Valley Braves, 4-2 going into Week 7 as they take on the Garaway Pirates. And Coach, I really appreciate your time joining me here today. And I kind of want to talk about this matchup against Garaway going into Week 7. But before we kind of get into the game plan for them, how you're going to stop them and everything, I do want to start with your quarterback, Sam Carter, who I feel like he's had a really underrated year. I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, at least, the running offense, the rush offense has just been so powerful for you. It's been driving the train for everything that you've done for your team offensively, but I feel like he's kind of just been underrated as far as like how efficient he's been. He only had 2 incompletions last week, and he threw it almost 20 times. He came off an injury last year. Like, how do you evaluate the way he's performed through the first 6 weeks of the year, coming off the injury last year, but leading this team to the 4-2 start that they've had?
Yeah, well, and even to piggyback off what you said about his stats last week, I think he was 17-19 or 15-17, something like that. And he only had 2 incompletions. One of the incompletions was a drop touchdown pass wide open. The other one was just a flat out drop by our wide receiver. So, he was really efficient, and he's been really efficient, throughout the year. Obviously, we're known for our running attack. We like to run the football. But anytime that you can be a little bit more balanced and add that passing threat in there, and especially if it's a guy that can do it efficiently and limit mistakes and make good reads, he's come such a long way in being able to read the field and make good decisions, and his arm's gotten stronger and he's got a lot more confidence. So yeah, he's been really a key for our offense this year. And we've looked to build upon that passing game and utilize him a little bit more, and we know we're going to have to be able to do that moving forward too.
Yeah, now you have the threat of being balanced, because you primarily running the football, but now with him being able to throw the football like he does, you have that threat of being balanced now, which is great. But I do want to talk about the rushing attack, though, because Grady Kinsey had 123 yards last week and 4 touchdowns. Colton Thomas is kind of a guy that can run, and you can throw it to him as well. He had over 100 total yards last week, and he's been doing that all year for you. And he's also a tackling machine defensively and just has a nose. Like, anytime wherever the ball is, he's going and getting it, however which way he does it. Like, talk about those guys in your backfield, but also like how have they helped your team this year? Obviously, they're putting up numbers running the football, but like just leading your team offensively, and then like Colton on defense, like he has just been a monster for you.
Yeah, Colton's he's one of our captains, and he's a 4-year starter. Started since his freshman year at DB, and then the last 3 years at receiver as well. He's just grown in the game so much. He's such a heady kid, and he works so daggone hard. As do most of our kids. But he's just been a great leader this year. He's added that dimension of taking control of the team and putting the younger guys on his back, including guys like Grady, who, while Grady's a leader, he's still only a sophomore. He just happens to be a very good football player for being a sophomore. But being able to spread the ball out between those 2 guys, and then other guys that contribute, like Tanya McComb and Jackson Bircher, at tight end, finally having a tight end catch some passes this year, and Eric Golder and Tyson Pryor coming back this year. So we got, I know I tell people, any other year, if it were a traditional Indian Valley offense, Grady Kinsey would probably have 1,200 yards rushing by this time of the year, or coming up here pretty soon. But we don't have to do that. We don't have to rely on one guy. And so we can be a little bit more dynamic and spread the ball around and make defenses worry about, the entire field rather than just stopping the run and whatever tailback is back there for Indian Valley, having to deal with that. And when you got Colton out at the receiver, or we line them up at quarterback sometimes, and or getting the ball out of the backfield on a handoff. We think it makes our offense a little bit more dynamic than it's been in the past, and which obviously makes it tougher to defend.
I have no doubt that you guys are going to score some points against Garaway this Friday, but I mean, how are you going to stop them defensively? Because you mentioned you've been very efficient on offense, haven't turned the ball over a whole lot, but Garaway hasn't really turned the ball over a lot either. They've only had 3 turnovers all year. Brady Geibel's a huge part of that, playing quarterback for them. He can run, he can throw. He's very dynamic as a quarterback. Jenson Garber's a great wide receiver. Dillon Soehnlen's a fantastic running back, and they've outscored their opponents this year 233-38. So they've just been kind of on an insane run offensively this year. What's the plan defensively as far as just because, like you mentioned with your offense, people have got to cover more of the field. Like you've got to cover kind of the whole field against this Garaway team. So what do you do defensively against this high-powered offense that the Pirates have?
Sure, good question. And you know what? Come stopping their offense gonna help by us being able to move the ball and execute offensively too, because we haven't done that the last 2 years against these guys. They've shut us out for 2 straight years, haven't put any points on the board. So offense being able to execute is going to help out our defense. But they do have a great offense. Quarterback's doing a good job for them. The Garber kid's a really good receiver, and I know that the running back isn't very big, but he runs hard. You don't need to look at his roster size or anything like that. You just see it when he plays. He runs hard and he's good. But I think the strength of their offense is their offensive line. Their offensive line is really good. They were last year, and they're really good again this year. So limiting big plays, and taking advantage and moving the chains offensively and keeping their offense off the field, I think is going to be a big key for Friday night.
Well, we're looking forward to watching, Coach. We're going to be there. It should be a big-time matchup, 6-0 Garaway and 4-2 Indian Valley. And I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk football for 5 or 6 minutes. But best of luck in this game Friday and the rest of the way. And go make another deep run in the playoffs this year.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will.